Welcome to this week's rant entitled, Is That Really Spyware? Now, if like me, I'm sure you run some sort of malware and antivirus software on your laptops and desktops that you use in the production of your musical activities. Unfortunately, this is kind of a standard now for 2020s. You know, this stuff has to be there because there's a community out there that believes that it's correct to steal from you. Now, it's not about stealing money, and this is where a lot of people get confused. Really, what these people are trying to do is steal information. They're trying to build a profile up about who you are and what you do, and hopefully along the way they get some passwords and other things like that. But a lot of people are getting sort of very, protecting their machines. So what they're really trying to do now is build this profile up so that they can trick you into giving them money and they can extort the maximum amount of money out of you. It was thought a few years ago that the Mac couldn't be hacked. That, of course, is utter bollocks. But if you're going to mount a large-scale attack, then you go for the systems with the widest attack surface, as we say in the trade, and that would be systems running Microsoft Windows. There are far more systems running Microsoft Windows than there are running Apple Macs. Apple OS. So if you're going to mount an attack, if you're going to spend all the time and energy mounting an attack, you go and attack the larger surface area because you've got more chance of getting positive hits. Now, the reason why it's Windows is because typically at home, most desktops and laptops are sold with Windows installed on it, and most corporates use Windows devices as the desktop computing environment and the access to their larger corporate systems. So you would go and attack those because you've got far more chance of getting a hit. Macs are still susceptible though, and you should be protecting your Mac in the same way as any other device. Now, a couple of my friends sort of turn around to me and say, but my studio machine never goes anywhere near the internet. So my question back to them has always been, so how do you get your music out there? Light bulb moment, bing! They realise what they're doing is plugging USB sticks into their studio computer and then plugging USB sticks into another computer, so you've got the ability to transfer there, or they're plugging their studio computer into their home network to store it somewhere locally that another machine can pick up and post. So reality is, it is probably touching the internet. They just haven't really registered that it's a transfer process. But of course they don't connect to the internet. So it's at this point I feel I should do the channel promotion. Those of you who watched videos on the channel before know about this and can whiz through it because you're already probably a subscriber. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like videos about legacy tech, such as this little beauty down here which needs some TLC, hit the subscribe icon. Save yourself some time, hit the bell icon at the same time. If you like the contents of the video, please give it a thumbs up. And please leave comments down below. I really enjoy reading your comments. I respond to all of them, and sometimes you guys even give me the ideas for the future videos. Also down there, Instagram, Facebook feeds. Go over there, follow me on one of those platforms because that's where a lot of you are now contacting me through that, which is good. And also that's where all the channel shenanigans get reported. And finally, and probably the most important thing, is support the channel. Support the channel for less than a cup of coffee, and go over to the TMTG community. The address is down there, and support the work the channel does. But now, back to this particular video. Okay, let's go back to the title of this rant. So I've done my cybersecurity bit. Is this really spyware? Now, again, like many of you, I've been using a piece of freeware software called Audacity for many, many years to do audio processing. It's quite good for unraveling audio clips that have become unusable for some reason or another. Things I can't do in post, in Final Cut, I quite often have to take out and put into Audacity and use that. But I've been using it for many years. It sorts my audio out. In fact, from a channel perspective, the audio is not necessarily the problem I have. The problem I have is when you separate the audio from the video is resyncing the two together because of time jamming or time locking or whatever they called it. Putting time code on both the audio and the video so that you can sync it very, very simply. Something I'm looking into, but that's not what this video is about. Anyway, a day or so back, I ran across an article that stated that Audacity had been bought by a company known as the Muse Group. A company, I might add, that is headquartered in Russia. Now, one of the things that many people have been querying is why would a company buy a piece of freeware software? And Audacity has been freeware for as many years as I can remember. And maybe it started out as a paid for piece of software, but ever since I think I've used it, it's always been a piece of freeware. So why would they go and acquire the rights to this software? Now, there are two thoughts on this currently circulating on the internet. Thought number one is Muse intends to upgrade the software and they're going to take it away from the freeware area and start to charge a license fee for it. And that is, generally why you buy pieces of software, is to make money out of them. The second, and this is probably the more sinister theory, is that they intend to use the software to gather information about the end user, that's you and me, and maybe do this via covert mechanisms. What I'm talking about is spying on you. Honestly, I have no idea whether the second theory is correct or not. I've just been reading what many people have been writing on some of the bulletin boards about this particular subject. The evidence is that they are based in a country that the security community treads very lightly around, and I do mean that. The number of hacking situations have come out of this particular area of the world, and the other thing they've done recently is they've updated the user agreement. So most people, including me, when you get to that point where it says the license agreement, you hit agree to terms, next. Okay, you very rarely do you read it. And in fact, software companies, that's what they want you to do, because some buried in those terms and conditions are effectively, if our software screws up and you lose data, it's your fault, not ours. And there's a whole bunch of sort of small, what we call the small print. And very rarely do we read it, and the bottom line is if you don't accept it, you can't use the software. So it's kind of a catch-22. You either accept their license agreement or you can't use the software. And neither you nor I are big enough to be able to go and challenge some of these companies. I mean, would you pitch up to Microsoft and say, I'm not going to accept clause number 34? They just go away. Anyway, they've updated this user agreement. And basically what they've said in the user agreement is they will share information with countries where they have a presence. And at the moment they have presence in Russia, in the USA, and in the EEA, which is the European Economic Area, which for you and I is Europe, all but a few countries. So the question is, what data are they actually sharing about you and I? The next interesting item that they've now published is the fact that the license now carries a PG-13 rating. Why would a piece of audio software have to have a PG-13 rating? That just you know, that buggers belief really. I mean, I'm not quite sure why you need that. But what this means is that when little Johnny is doing some sort of work on the computer using Audacity, he's got to have parental guidance. Come on, that's a bit bonkers, isn't it? Really is a bit bonkers. Okay, so this situation got me thinking. Again, like many of you out there, I have acquired a bunch of freeware tools that help me do things. They help me do tasks, consolidate things, do repetitive tasks, do conversions. That's one of probably the area where I've got most of my freeware tools is doing conversions from one format to another, especially things like samples, because you know each of the samplers has its own format for constructing waves, especially some of the legacy Akai and Roland stuff. And you need, if you want to move stuff between them, you have to convert the wave files. Now, I've always tried to source these from fairly well-established platforms, and these platforms claim to scan the binaries, so that's the executable programs, for signs of malware and virus that could try and, I suppose, come into your defences around the back door. But really, do we know what these tools are actually doing, and do we actually understand that they are really free? We have to kind of put a level of trust. We have to trust the platforms that are hosting the downloads of these tools. We have to trust that the people constructing these tools are good citizens, and we have to trust that the antivirus and malware tools that we deploy to our desktops and laptops are doing the job. So I'll leave you with this. Keep the defences up. Pay the subscriptions for the tools. People will probably be screaming at me, why do I have to pay? Because if you don't pay, you don't get the updates, and if you don't get the updates, remember, these criminals are inventive buggers. They will find ways round the defences, and you've got to make sure that your tools are hopefully being updated before those inventive ways hit you. Or, as some people suspect, has the antivirus industry invented a problem to take the money out of your pocket? What I can tell you, because I work in the computer industry and I work in a fairly decent sized corporate, at the corporate level, this is a real problem. And we spend a large amount of money mounting multiple levels of defense to stop people breaching and installing malware software. And the other thing we do is we monitor how many times we get probed per day. Now, I'm not allowed to tell you that, what the actual number is, but I can tell you it's quite a few times. Anyway, I'll leave you with my normal greeting at this point, which is live long and prosper, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.